All right, how's everybody doing? Today is the 22nd. We're getting ready for that cold front to dip in, right? Hopefully, it's the final plunge. And I have a little bit more info on that, so to speak, or another take. Okay, so this right here, do you see what that is? This screenshot's been edited, so it's all cropped down, but that's actually the sun, okay? And this is the coronal hole that they're talking about. Okay, and to me, what I see there's a face right here. See that face? And right here is where that extra came from, right below the ear. See the eye? There's going to be another eye over here, the nose, the mouth. Okay, and this all kind of goes together, okay? So just bear with me for a moment. So I talked about these polar plunges being significant, right? That right there reminds me of the story of Jonah. Jonah and the whale. Okay, you got the whale tail coming down to the belly, 3 days in the belly. There's Jonah. Another story it reminds me of, quite honestly, you go all the way back to the beginning. In the beginning, there was darkness, just like I've said. So today there's darkness. We live in a void. It's called a black hole. But it goes back to the Son of Man as well, right? It's not some Jesus dude. It's the actual sun that breathed into the ground that created man from the rare earth minerals. I've talked about, what what the rare earth minerals mean when they talk about these wars and going after the rare earth minerals. It's why King Herod was looking for the firstborn, the very first men, right? Because there weren't men here until there was, right? Just saying. But let me get to what I find interesting about this. Okay, so there's a face right there, and going back to the beginning, it was dark, and God said, "Let there be light." So we had a solar flare, and there was light. And man was created on the sixth day, right? So this happened approximately 3 days ago. So if we look at the next 3 days as potentially the 3 days of darkness, because it is going to be cold, right? This cold front, and I've said that's, the 3 days could have been 3,000 years. I only know the part that I know, that I see, right? And so hell was actually the ice age. That's why we have ice agents, agents in the streets. Everything is symbolic, right? We had a cold stretch hit up north. We had another cold stretch hit through the middle of the country. And this cold stretch, the third plunge, the third world, right, is now going to hit the south. So, I don't know, like I said in the last video, we may have to go all the way up to, February 5th or whatever the date is of the START treaty. Alpha and Omega, the start is the end. The beginning is the end. But if this is the event happening now, it could be those days that have been shortened, right? Like I've talked about before, every time we go through one of these resets, so to speak, the calendar gets changed because things are removed from the timeline. Things that don't belong there are removed, so they have to add stuff back in. So everybody's talking about, oh, they added these months, and yeah, they probably did. They had to fill things back in. But I don't know, exciting times, isn't it? So brace for the cold. And we may not even get there. There's another old expression: tomorrow's promised to nobody. So, they keep propagating, this is going to happen tomorrow, and this is going to happen 3 weeks from now, and it very well might. We don't know when 0 point, right? Everybody talks about 0 point. So when the timeline runs far enough backwards to 0 point, that's when we'll know, or we won't, because, it's like I said before, I firmly believe that when this happens, we won't remember none of this. So we're not going to have that perspective of viewing this versus that. It's just going to change, just like the book of life, right? Turn the page. That's all you're doing. Just turn the page, just like that, twinkle of an eye. All right, so everybody stay warm, and I love you all. Take care. Bye-bye.